It is Obi-Wan Kenobi Wednesday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. This morning, let us play with the latest iteration of very easy meditation. We shall start with the first of 4 phases of mindful crease counting. The luxury electric vehicle of mindfulness meditation traverses the smooth road afforded to us by Anu Yoga's energy work. Now, there's many flavors of energy work. I found that mudra or finger gesture oriented energy work to be the most efficient. Over the span of 12 breaths, we could advance our right thumb in the following method, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We can multiply this by 8 using our left hand, not to count inhalations or repetitions, but to count sets. 1 set of 12 inhalations, 2, 3, 4 sets of 12 inhalations, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations. This is our first of 4 phases. We can keep track of the phases of this phase by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our subtle energies to coalesce in the bladder region of our lower abdomen. Now that we know what to do with our fingers, let us explore what to do with our mind. What if enlightenment was nothing spooky or supernatural or elitist? What if it was simply mastery of Gautama Buddha's Eightfold Path? But what do we mean by mastery? No infant is born knowing how to use the toilet or tie their shoes or brush their teeth or ride a bicycle. And yet, by the time most children enter first grade, they are capable of doing so spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. That's mastery. And we can master the Buddha's Eightfold Path in as little as 2 weeks, practicing just once every 12 hours or so. The key to that lies in the fact that the 7th fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is mindfulness. The 8th fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is meditation. And when we practice these two correctly, the remaining 6 folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path take care of themselves automatically. I would therefore like to view mindfulness and meditation through the lens of neuroscience after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Please chant with me. The nudity of the octuple couple sporting and tantric union reminds us of the vulnerability so crucial to mindfulness. So this mythological couple serves as an archetype. whose iconography reminds us of the most essential points of meditation. And in different recitations, we describe the couple either in English or in Sanskrit or in Tibetan, not as a real or imagined entity upon which to pray, but simply as an archetype whose iconography helps us remember the teachings. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. Since the Neolithic Revolution, the majority of us have been conditioned to be so rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel that we will denigrate those who follow in Gautama's path and choose to be flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. It should therefore come as little surprise that when these rigid people teach others how to meditate, they implore them to actively focus and analyze. Now, the only discrete neural pathways capable of doing these things, capable of focusing and analyzing, are those found in regions such as the medial or dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Overtrain this area and we will trigger our amygdala. This amygdala is the almond-shaped seat of both anxiety and aggression, which are the polar opposites of what we want for meditation, which is peace and love. Fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Let's explore this further by beginning with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we automatically access our sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us notice in a very special way, to help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, which I'm sure you can agree is the opposite of rigid concentration. But what is it we're supposed to notice? We have evolved to notice mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Now, this is a whole armful of things to do. Is there an easy way to practice them? Yes. Silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, and you will induce your cerebral cortex to cooperate with your sympathetic nervous system. Well, what are we to do with all these things that we notice? It could feel a trifle overwhelming. And that brings us to meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are already wired by evolution to effortlessly access our parasympathetic nervous system, divided between the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release, to the point that what we noticed during our previous inhalation could literally feel impermanent and figuratively feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So we have to ask, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand? And thus we see, by training in mindfulness and meditation, the experience of literal impermanence and figurative emptiness becomes inevitable. Now, is there a simpler way to practice meditation? Yes. Every time when we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we're able to release what it is we previously noticed. Now, release doesn't mean shove away. Release just means make peace with. It means we are releasing our resistance to the present moment. Whether that present moment be pleasurable, painful, interesting, boring, glorious, or grotesque. There are so many memes featuring kitty cats looking annoyed, and the caption will read, "I'm surrounded by idiots." And sometimes we are like that cat. We find ourselves surrounded by people who are either maliciously or incompetently oblique. And sometimes those people are in positions of authority, and it can be maddening. We have a survival instinct to be controlling. But if we live with that, if we are governed by that impulse, we're going to be miserable. Noticing circumstances where people who have some authority over us are incompetent or malicious and are harming us is something we could notice during our inhalation. Making peace that there are some things we can do, but despite that, we have very little say over the benevolence or wisdom of another. And yes, we can reach out to other authority figures, perhaps their supervisors, and say, "Hey, I'm being harmed by this person, or this person's harming me. They may be harming others as well. Please see to it." But at a certain point, we have to put our hands up and back away from a toxic, unwinnable situation. In the Wrath of Khan, we learned about the Kobayashi Maru, wherein Captain Kirk, before he was a captain, decided not to accept a no-win scenario. And so he cheated, and he reprogrammed the test. And that makes excellent entertainment, but it's a terrible way to lead our lives. If we want to be peaceful, we have to learn how to wisely go with the flow. And towards that end, meditation and mindfulness can be helpful. Let's practice. We come now to the second of 4 phases of mindful crease counting. Over the span of the next 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our left finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We can multiply these 12 inhalations by 8 for a total of 96. By using our left hand not to count inhalations, but to count sets of 12 inhalations in the following manner. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. Whoops, I forgot one thing. Let's try that again. We can keep track of this second collection of 96 inhalations by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our laps. Doing so, let's try this again. Doing so could gently invite our subtle energies to coalesce in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. Please chant with me. The translucence of the all-good Father and Mother depicted in paintings reminds us of meditation's experience of impermanence and non-graspability. Before explaining the second benefit of regularly playing with mindfulness and meditation, at least once every 12 hours or so, I'm going to take a moment to review how to do this. The key to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly noticing mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination is to silently and mentally recite this demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation. The key to release what we noticed during our previous inhalation, as if it was literally impermanent and figuratively as non-graspable as a vast empty void, or the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Doing so regularly can calm the tyranny that our amygdala's anxiety and aggression could have over us or wield over us. Thus, training in mindfulness and meditation helps to diffuse cruelty that could affect our intentions, communication, conduct, and commerce. And so we see how simply practicing mindfulness and meditation, the 7th and 8th folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, can help us to traverse the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th folds of the same path. Let's practice. And if you have any questions about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. I check for questions approximately once every 10 to 15 minutes. During each inhalation, we are already wired to Generate a vertical traction between our head and our tush. During each exhalation, we are already wired to relax. There are always going to be kind people. There are always going to be cruel people. There are always going to be lazy-minded people. There are always going to be malicious people. Not 100% of the people, not 100% of the time. But the key is when we have an authentic, dynamic, emotional reaction towards someone's cruelty or stupidity, we have to be honest with ourselves about what we are feeling as we breathe in. Even though the only label we're using is this, we have to be honest with ourselves. But that honesty does not give us license to be controlled by those emotions. And we shed the potential control those emotions might exert over our choices, utterances, and deeds by releasing and relaxing during our exhalation. We come now to the third of 4 phases of mindful crease counting. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we can multiply this by 8 for a total of 96 by incorporating our left hand, not to count individual inhalations, but to count sets of 12. And we could do that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets. To keep track of this third phase or third collection of 96 inhalations, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger, upon the tip of our left middle finger, thumbs up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our subtle energies to coalesce in the heart region of our chest. Please chant with me. The beauty of sky blue kuntu zongpo and cloud white kuntu zongmo yam reminds us of the highest love, spontaneous and uncontrived. You see, the ancients taught that the greatest beauty is not determined by our bone structure, our skin, or our hair, or our garments, but our love and our compassion and our empathy. Before I explore with you the third set of benefits that come from playing with mindfulness and meditation about once every 12 hours or so, I'd like to review with you how to practice them. Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Every time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are able to release what we noticed during our previous inhalation, as if that which we noticed was literally impermanent and figuratively as non-graspable as a vast empty void. What's a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. Play with mindfulness and meditation at least once every 12 hours or so, and we will beneficially stimulate this hunk of meat right here. Big kids call this the anterior cingulate gyrus. It functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, which in turn is the root of compassion and love. So this is exactly why the late Tulku Thondup insisted that the highest love was not the product of contrived concentration or contemplation or focus or analysis, but instead was the uncontrived, spontaneous byproduct of noticing and releasing. fMRI studies verify that that is exactly how this works. So just by practicing mindfulness and meditation makes it easier for us to spontaneously experience kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and commerce that is as kind as it is cooperative. Let's practice. Our job is not to select what we feel or perceive or intend. Our job is not to choose what we think or recall or imagine. Our job is to notice with the utmost of vulnerability what occurs as we inhale, and to relax and release our resistance to it as we exhale. That could sound very much like signing up to be a doormat, but the opposite is true. The more we do this, the more our choices and utterances and deeds will flow from the effortless effort of love-centered spontaneity. And that is where a skillful means of effortlessly doing the right thing in the right way with the right timing comes. Lives can be squandered trying to puzzle out how best to manipulate idiots to do the right thing. Even if those people have letters after the name, even if those people are in positions of power greater than yours from the view of society. But that is an excellent way of squandering our own time, our own energy, our own creativity, and our own resources. There are times when saying a poignant thing might flow trippingly off our tongue effortlessly and spontaneously, and that's splendid. But to squander our time and energy plotting and planning and striving in a distinctly Machiavellian manner, paves not the path of peace. I don't know if you are neurotypical or neurodivergent. I'm neurodivergent, and so us neurodivergent folk can often be found involuntarily rehearsing conversations with people that we might have in the future, or rehashing it. It's a common symptom of that neurotype. But it is not sustainable, and it does lead to exhaustion. So if you are as neurodivergent as me, I recommend surfing the attributes of your neurotype with these methods of mindfulness and meditation. Not to squelch these propensities, but to harness them in a distinctly sustainable manner. We come now to the fourth and final phase of mindful crease counting. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We could multiply this by 8 for a total of 96 by involving our left hand. No, not to count individual inhalations, but to count sets of 12. To count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations. We could keep track of this fourth and final collection of 96 inhalations by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce at the crown region of our head. Please chant with me. The stability with which God blue Samanta Mandra sits, and the abandon with which cloud white Samanta Mandri sports, reminds us of the effortless effort of centered spontaneity. Before I discuss with you the fourth set of benefits to be had from playing with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so, I'd like to review the actual process. When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we plug into the wiring of our sympathetic nervous system that helps us to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. When we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we can find ourselves releasing what it is we noticed during our previous inhalation, as if that which we noticed was literally impermanent and figuratively as non-graspable as a vast empty void, which could be exemplified by the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although it could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. So when we find ourselves, when every 12 hours or so we play with mindfulness and meditation, we could find that our choices and our utterances and our deeds begin to flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. No, not scattered spontaneity. You know, like that so-called good idea you think you have after your fifth shot of espresso. No, the centered spontaneity that comes from the regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. So let us make the most of this, our final session, and practice together right now. And yes, of course, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. May we joyfully relax into the perfect imperfection of our Buddha nature. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 or so hours, I would very much like to return to lead this evening's meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.